Hello. So we are presented with a case um, of a young 17-year-old Hispanic male. Um, he is a high school student, and the problem that we are faced with this particular case is that, for one, he is a minor, so that's kind of some limitations on what we can and cannot disclose outside of my sessions with him. And for the sake of this case, he will be referred to as JO, or the client. So the issue with JO's case is that his parents are going through a divorce, and he feels as though he is being tugged and pulled in both directions, and he feels as though he has to make a choice between his parents, especially in court. He is of age. He is at the age where he can testify against either or parent, and the the lawyers and the courts are basically making him make a choice, and that's a, a weight on him. It's a lot. It's very heavy, especially for a young teenager. He already has to go back and forth translating between English and Spanish for his parents, and then there's the sense of overwhelm. He's very overwhelmed because because of everything that's going on with his family. I detect that the primary issue really comes from the paternal side. And what I mean by that is that the father comes off from our sessions as being pretty aggressive in the way that he explains him. And this may or may not cause or lead to JO severe depression. So my client, he he is facing some very serious thoughts of taking his own life, and this is a very serious matter. It's a very serious topic. So as far as his decision-making process, of course, because he asked me not to, I cannot, um, you know, I can do the best of my ability in talking with him without going to his parents as much as I possibly can. But he has had these very severe thoughts, and I can give him phone numbers for suicide hotline. I can make phone calls for him. I can suggest that he talk to crisis support help, and I can give him different scenarios and different cases of the tragedy and the trauma that will fall on his family if he were to do that. And then at that point, it becomes more of a conscious thing um, for himself and helping his family. And also, um, the best way for a client to beat depression is to have them set goals. Um, Now, this doesn't obviously work for everyone every time, but it's the best that I know that I can do in this case to work with JO. So I can have him make little homework assignments and have him write out little goals and little assignments for himself every day. Um, and they don't have to be anything major, but the more that he sets those goals and the more that he achieves those goals, he will be able to beat that depression little by little. And as far as the decision making process with his parents, I cannot tell him, I cannot suggest which parent to go against or which parent to testify for or testify against. I can only tell him to use his best judgment, and he is of age that he can decide whether not or whether to speak in court. Although, because he is of age, they will most likely want him to speak in court. But all I can tell him is to speak in the best interest for himself and his siblings. Granted, he doesn't want it to backfire on him, and we don't want anything to transpire out of this. And according to the ACA Code of Ethics, Section B, it talks about confidentiality and privacy of the clients. Therefore, I can only do so much and speak so much on or disclose so much outside of my sessions with him. I can only speak to certain colleagues and other professionals. I can maybe talk to his physician, but that probably would not be a really good idea either. But I would have to talk to someone. And because he specifically asked me not to tell his parents, specifically his father, and we don't know if me telling his father is going to be the very thing to send him over the edge or not. So I have to respect his wishes and just do the best thing that I can do, especially according to the ACA Code of Ethics, Section B. Therefore, I have to respect that. And also, it's only my duty to disclose this type of information only if he is harming, if he is causing harm, serious harm to himself or to others. Others being that he is specifically told me that he's going to harm someone else or do this very specific action. And I can't really go forth with telling his parents anything or talking to anyone because he didn't set out a specific plan. He didn't specifically tell me anything or give me a specific plan on what he was going to do to unalive himself. So therefore, I think it would be okay if I just give him some phone numbers to call and have him set out simple little goals and assessments and have him achieve those little tiny assessments, little tiny goals every day and see how far he goes with that. For his autonomy, as his counselor, I respect J.O.'s autonomy and his decision-making skills, his ability to make decisions for himself. He is very well capable. He is very well able-bodied. He's a very smart young man. You know, I also have to think of the beneficence for not only just him, but for others, meaning his family, his mother, his father, his siblings, and the rest of society as a whole. And ultimately, non-maleficence. I have to keep in mind that I am not harming my client or causing harm to my client or to anyone else. And also remaining true and honest throughout the whole process. As a counselor, as his counselor, I have to maintain that peak of honesty and promises. As counselors, we always uphold that thing of keeping promises and confidentiality. So I have to keep my word with that. And he's not posing any real danger. He didn't specify, as I said before, what he was going to do to unalive himself. So, as I stated before, he would be fine. And to further help him in this case, I can explain my own experience just a little bit of dealing with parents and divorce and how that can become a bit of a battle and overwhelming and feeling as though you do have to make a choice. And I would just let him know that it's okay. Your parents will still love you no matter what. Your parents are going to forgive you. Your parents are not going to throw you out based off of who you testify against or who you pick or, any of that. And also, he's going to be 18 soon anyway. So we have to keep all of this in mind, which means once he turns 18, he will no longer be a minor. So everything that he does tell me at that point and leading up to this point will remain confidential unless, as I stated before, he mentions that he wants to cause harm or plans to cause harm to others and himself. My desired outcome for this client in this case is that he will ultimately learn autonomy for himself, decision-making skills for himself, and that he will become more confident and his self-esteem will increase, which is the ultimate goal when they come into counseling in our sessions. I don't want him to feel as though, he has to rely on someone else to help him make decisions or become dependent upon me or anyone else to help him make any type of decisions. So I would definitely encourage him to make different decisions for himself. I would definitely encourage him, to, well, I almost said to break out of that depression, which that's not exactly an easy thing to do. But I would encourage him to, work through it and, take it one step at a time. A very wise scholar once said, "How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You cannot eat a whole elephant in just one bite in one big gulp." So I would definitely encourage him with that information. And lastly, I will keep my word to him as his counselor, and I will just continue to work with him. In the event or in the case that I can no longer work with him, I will send him to a crisis center, suggest that he goes to a crisis center or help from someone else, because crisis is not exactly my specialty, not exactly what I can do for him. So I can help him with that. I can give him phone numbers to talk with someone, talk it out to someone. He can, I can't give him my number, but I can extend my email to him. That's not breaching any type of, boundaries with me. So I can extend my email address to him if ever he needs to talk. And, and if it gets too serious, I can give him the suicide prevention hotline numbers, and then I can tell him to call, 911 emergency, and ultimately I can suggest or recommend that he talks to someone else that specializes in that particular area, not losing him or not leaving him as a client, but making sure that I'm still there for him and keeping my promise to him from our initial meeting that I will keep that confidentiality. I will make sure that everything stays up to date with him, and ultimately make sure that he feels confident around his parents as well. So thank you.